1 month, the instructor brought out some tarot cards. And again, up until this point, at 40 years old, I had never been drawn to tarot cards. Hey there, this is Ina from Taproot Tarot, and today I'm bringing you the Tarot Journey Through Decks tag from Simon of Hermit's Cave, who has been so encouraging to new creators, and I really appreciate that because I'm looking forward to being a more active part of the Tarot Tube community. And so I thought I would offer you a little introduction to myself with this tag, Tarot Journey Through Decks. And the description is: share the tarot decks that have been significant at different stages of your tarot journey. Feel free to include as many as you like to illustrate your journey. And I will keep it quick. I know it's tempting for me to want to pile on a lot of decks, but you don't know me yet, so why would you want to listen to a super long video from me? Maybe later. All right, so let's talk about the beginning. And I should say that I didn't get into tarot until 2019 when I was 40, which is really weird because I was into kind of witchy kind of stuff when I was a teenager and young adult in the 90s, which was the time when tarot decks were just exploding, particularly RWS decks. For whatever reason, they never appealed to me. I don't know why, nothing against the RWS system at all. I know it resonates obviously with so many people because it's the most popular system in the world. But it was never for me. And it's really strange because, even a lot of the art I found really appealing, but not for divination or for, to use in a tarot practice. Now, what did appeal to me, which I feel like deserves an honorable mention, was runes. My first set of runes when I was a high schooler, I had bought some used book for like $1, but I wasn't someone who could afford a nice set of runes and didn't really know how to make a good set or anything like that. So my first set was one that I made out of paper, which I guess would technically kind of make those cards. So maybe my first set of cards were paper runes, but those aren't tarot, of course. I do have this old set of runes that I made by hand. They're about 20 years old. They're from some wood chips that my then husband was nice enough to chip away for me. He was good for something, I guess. But I was living off grid at the time, and so these were burned with something out of my wood stove, I think. I didn't use any electrical tools to do this. I don't remember exactly how I made these, but somehow I used fire to give them that good look. So I do still have a set of runes. I don't know whatever happened to my paper ones. But then in 2019, I took a class based on the book Kissing the Limitless by T. Thorne Coyle. And it's a great book, and it was a year-long class at my local witchy shop, and the classes were once a month, and 1 month the instructor brought out some tarot cards. And again, up until this point, at 40 years old, I had never been drawn to tarot cards, even though I had been around them a lot, but she pulled out the Mother Peace Tarot, and that just really, really resonated with me. And I know that there are some problematic elements to it, being that it's, I think, made by a couple of white women in the 70s and early 80s, and attempting to depict folks of the global majority. And honestly, their hearts were in the right place. And I love the deck. It's lovely, although I recognize that there are legitimate concerns about it. It's not an RWS system deck. It's also not a pip deck. Sorry, I'm not even really showing any cards here, am I? It does follow the traditional Marseille numbering. It's a cool round deck. And it's just really anti-patriarchal. Like the Devil card, for example, just really shows a discomfort, I think, with hierarchy and oppression. It's great. What a cool Devil card. Love it. It also has, since I just passed it, a really beautiful and sweet death card. I don't know why I'm featuring Devil and Death so much in my videos lately, but it's so pretty. So yeah, it's a really cool deck. Not RWS, not a pip system, so I guess you could label it Continental System. and it's lovely. So I had picked up that night, I picked up my first tarot deck on my way out of the bookshop. I got the mini, which is much more convenient for a round deck. I had then picked up a vintage copy of the full-sized, so it's really lovely. Mother piece was beginning for me. My second deck was the Wild Unknown, which also follows the Marseille traditional numbering, and is a pip deck, and I love it. It's so pretty, it's great. So those two decks were the beginning, the Mother piece and the Wild Unknown. The milestone, of course, is the Marseille. So I picked up the book Mindful Tarot by Ester Tishman. I feel so bad if I'm getting her name wrong. And I found her YouTube channel, which is called Mindful Tarot. And that was my first TarotTube account that I followed. And she posted a video on why she loves Marseille. And she would often post about historic decks that she had picked up. Those early videos really shaped my taste in tarot decks and made me realize there was another system out there that wasn't RWS. So the Marseille is my milestone tarot. I know what my first three were. I've got the Debray, which is a prettified kind of version of the Marseille. It's pretty traditional. They have a really good artist on staff, and she does a really nice job of just making these historical decks more appealing to contemporary folks. And that's probably what I needed at the time. You know, at the beginning, I don't think I was probably that into the look of traditional Marseille decks. So unsurprisingly, my first three are prettier than, more conventionally pretty, I guess. And so the other one is Tarot de Maria Celia. I love this. It's a mini deck in a tin. Is often my go-to deck for months at a time because it's so portable. It has a great guidebook, a little white book that focuses on numerology. And that's one thing that can happen with a Tarot de Marseille, that you end up with a little white book. Debray is guilty of this, that is written by Arthur Waite. And it doesn't make sense. It doesn't really match the system. So it's really nice to have a Marseille deck that has an actual Marseille little white book. But the one that I'm going to choose that's probably more representative of Marseille is the Fournier Les Tarot de Marseille, I think is how they have it entitled. And this one's the most traditional of the three, except that it's more vibrantly colored. It's a beautiful deck. I love this so much. Not only do I love Fournier decks in general, they're the perfect size for me. I love their shuffleability. They last for decades. I don't know, I haven't had mine for decades yet, so I guess we'll find out. But it's just a beautiful deck. It does stick to traditional Marseille styling and art, but it just has cool colors, which I really like. And that really got me started, finding my place in the tarot world. Marseille is the main player for me. I do like to branch out a little bit. So the third prompt is the deepening, the decks that helped you grow, learn, or deepen your practice. And a couple are, I'd have to say the Minchiati, and I have here the El Manighello Minchiati Etruria. It's a beautiful deck. I keep this one as a study deck. I have a couple more that I use more for use. But this really is one of the decks, there's probably a few, that opened up my interest in the history of tarot. And as I mentioned in my first video on this channel, that, various historical decks have really informed my understanding of the meaning. They've prompted me to look up different histories and really try to understand what the symbolism being portrayed at the time was, not necessarily esoteric symbolism, but traditional mythological and religious symbolism, which I just find really interesting. I'm not a religious person, so I kind of am able to view that aspect of the tarot at a distance. It doesn't affect me personally, but I find it interesting. This is typical, gorgeous. Just got to show that off a little. And then another one is Marichu Gula's El Gran Esoterico. And this is another Fournier deck. She just sounds like she was really cool. She was a Basque fortune teller. She was referred to as the White Witch of somewhere that she lived and was just really well respected. This is a more esoteric deck. Esotericism isn't my thing personally. I kind of ignore the esoteric symbols, but I still think these decks are cool. She must have read about the Uda Pakar system. And Uda Pakar was somebody who was an esotericist, but came up with a really systemic way of interpreting and portraying pips, which, unlike the RWS, which kind of borrows from multiple different traditions and systems and cobbles those together, Uda Pakard's system is a system. It's how you can just see the growth in the pips as they develop. It's just pretty cool. His elemental associations might be a problem for some folks. I think I just showed swords are water, and cups are air. He was kind of chill about saying his elemental associations aren't set in stone. That's just the way he sees it, kind of thing. And that's another thing that really draws me to the Marseille. And I'm forgetting the name of the creator, but the way she put it was so good. She said that the Marseille Tarot system doesn't have an author. So like if you follow RWS or Thoth, that's an author and you're kind of constrained by that system. Whereas the Marseille is just a set of cards that's open to interpretation in any number of ways. So that's really cool to me. And Uda Pakar has a system, which I think is more methodical, which appeals to me. And also says, this isn't the end all be all. This is just the way I see it, which is kind of cool. So those both, Mikiadi and the El Gran Tarot Esoterico by Marichu Gula, they both got me curious about different historical ways of interpreting tarot. Now, are these historical ways of looking at tarot helpful to my reading practice? Probably not. I'm not going to lie. They might be distracting me from the basics that I should be solidifying first. So these are really cool things for me to layer on top of my practice once I get more solid with the basics. But I'm not there yet, so I really should focus more on those. Vincent Petici liked to say that you could either be a tarot student, a student of the tarot, or a tarot reader. And those are two separate things. And that really resonated with me, and I tried to remember that if I get distracted on all these different cool paths of knowledge and history, that it's kind of taking away from the time spent solidifying my card reading practice. So that's something I'd like to find some balance with, but I do appreciate deepening my knowledge by looking into history and learning about different systems. And the decks that currently resonate with you most, for sure the Marseille still. But to avoid being too boring, I'll bring in a couple of decks that show how my taste has changed. So let's go ahead and flip the camera around for this, because this is more visual demonstration. This is Tarot del Fuego by Ricardo Cavolo, and please forgive my lack of Spanish pronunciation skills, but I have become such a fan of bright Spanish decks. And, this deck showed up so many times, and I would look closely at the cards and think, no, that is just not for me. But over the years of, being more interested in Marseille, my tastes have changed. I love the traditional Marseille decks now, and over time, my taste in color has really changed in a way where it feels like, as I deepen my reading practice, a different part of my brain is just craving just to be stimulated, I guess, by really cool colors, really interesting images, things like that. So I think that's what's going on here, where this deck just did not appeal to me for the longest time, and now I just love it. I love it so much. Now, this is a deck that's not for a beginner, and is one that I enjoy reading from occasionally, but try to hold off until I'm a little more solid in my reading practice. It's so cool, though, and it has so much depth to it. And if you don't like it, I get it, because I didn't like it for so long. And then all of a sudden, oh my goodness, it just, oh my gosh, just appeals to me so strongly. And it's so interesting to know that at one point I didn't like it, and to think about, you know, what changed there. It is really wild. I love it. Development, even at 46 years of age. And needless to say, this looks amazing in a spread. It is a PVC deck, I guess. Fournier decks are known for being very resilient, so I don't know if a lot of them are PVC, but this one, you can tell the difference. It doesn't bother me. It's flexible, but extremely sturdy. Very cool. So this is an amazing deck. Absolutely love it. And I, you know, probably 3 years ago me would never believe that I would have liked this deck. It's just amazing to me now, though. Look at that. So yeah, Ricardo Cavallo. Not much. He doesn't have many interviews, you know, in English, so I don't know much about him, but he sure made an amazing deck. The next one is, and again, please pardon my pronunciation, Tarot de los Tres. So it's Tarot of the gods of the three, God of the Three. And this is an art deck. It's by Javier Navarro. He's an artist, and his art studio or art brand is the God of the Three, or El Dios de los Tres. So this tarot, much like the Vaqueta, is a promotional piece to illustrate or to showcase this amazing artist. By the way, these little bead boxes fit these Fournier decks great. I love tins, but I like these little plastic boxes, so I don't have to use the tuck box. They won't last forever. I wish I could find a tin that would fit Fournier decks. That would make me happy. But onto this deck. It is just... it's so cool. It just borrows from so many different traditions, and, you know, it's irreverent for sure. And you know, he's just an artist who's breaking the rules, and I don't have a problem with that. None of these symbols are personal to me, so I could see folks who do have personal practices involving some of these religions, you know, maybe feeling uncomfortable with this deck, but I absolutely love it. It's so beautiful. There's so much to it. It's not necessarily esoteric in nature. I don't think the artist is trying to, look at that. It's amazing. I don't think the artist is trying to create a tarot system or anything. He is trying to promote his super duper creative art style. And so I think this is a deck that can be used, you know, once I'm to the point where, you know, I've got my system and I know it, regardless of the cards I'm looking at. And then, you know, the extra visual stimuli can just spark my creativity and intuition. That's how I see it anyway. But yeah, I'm not going to do a full walkthrough of this, but it is just truly amazing. If you would like a full walkthrough of any of these decks, oh, here's a little nod to Norse culture. I think this might be the only Norse symbolism that I've caught so far. I love it though. And yeah, it's just absolutely gorgeous. I can't say that enough. And so that's where I am now, which is really weird. I never ever would have thought that this is where I would be in my tarot practice, but here I am. And I really appreciate you taking the time to check this out. I hope you enjoy my tarot journey through the cards. I really have appreciated and enjoyed watching many of yours as well. Thanks again so much, and I will talk to you next time.